AI, healthy sperms in uterus, Lipper loops, IUDs. Ovum, directly sperms, ICSI. STI, not affected sex organ, hepatitis. Saheli, 21 days in a cycle. 8 blastomere transferred into fallopian tube. Locomotion. Fast muscle fiber, lactic acid. Slow muscle fiber, myoglobin. Actin filament, I-band. Sarcomere, contractile unit. Ribs attached to sternum. Atlas and axis, pivoid. ATPase, myosin. Intervertebral disc, vertebral column of mammals. Sequence, cervical, thorax, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal. Hinge joint, knee joint and elbow joint. Gliding between carpals. Saddle, carpals and metacarpals of thumb. Macrophages and leukocyte, amoeboid movement. Bone disorder, arthritis, osteoporosis, rickets. Inner wall of alimentary canal, smooth and involuntary. Heart muscle, straightened and involuntary. Hand legs muscle, straight and voluntary. Reproductive tract muscle, unstraighted and involuntary. Head of humerus bone articulate with glenoid cavity of pectoral girdle. Sternum, flat bone. Glenoid cavity, pectoral girdle. Free movement joint, synovial fluid. Cartilaginous joint, vertebrae. Muscular disorder in invertebrate, inherited, muscular dystrophy. Decreased calcium in body fluid, cause tetany. Elbow joints, hinge joints. 7 pairs, vertebro-sternal. 3 pairs of vertebral-chondral. 2 pairs of vertebral ribs. Iris, involuntary smooth muscles. Cartilage in cornea, no blood synp but required O2 for responded. Parietal bone and temporal bone of skull joined by fibrosis joint. Structure of pinna and nose, cartilage. Thigh, straight and voluntary. Pelvic girdle, coxal, ilium, ischium, pubis, acetabulum. Sternum and ribs, axial skeleton. Humerus and ulna, appendicular vertebrae skeleton. Malleus and stapes, ear ossicles. Osteoporosis, decrease in bone mass and higher chances of rupture with advanced age and fracture with advanced age. Magnesium, autoimmune affect नहीं मेरे जो है ना जी से एक डिसीज है ना उसका न्यूरोमेजर जंक्शन फेटिक पार्ट ऑफ SM. Gout, uric acid in joints. MD, genetic disorder. Joints between atlas axis, fluid filled synovial cavity between two bones. H. Jones, central gap between actin filament extended theory myosin filament in A band. Stimulation of muscle fiber, motor neuron, neuromuscular junction. Glenoid cavity articulates humerus plus scapula. Allow no movement, fibrous joints. Smooth muscles, involuntary, fusiform, non-striated. Unmasking acting site of myosin, calcium. Osteoporosis, decrease in level of estrogen. 12 pair ribs, 7 pairs of ribs. Pivot joint, synovial joint. Calcium skeleton muscle contractile subunit because it binds to the troponin to remove the masking of active site of actin for myosin. Contraction, H zone disappear. I band reduces in width. Myosin hydrolysis ATP. Release ADP and PI. Z line attached to actin and gullet inwards. Scapula flat triangular bone. Cranium fibrous joint. Sternum flat bone. Vertebral column cartilaginous joint. Smooth muscle. These muscle has on straight ends. Involuntary. Present in wall of blood vessels. Floating ribs do not connect with sternum. Acromion clavicle. Scapula located between 2nd and 7th ribs. Glenoid cavity head of the humerus. Skull bones white regular fibrous connective tissue. Connective bones at joints ligaments. Joints of two bones. Epiphyseal plate bones elongation of bones. Connective tissue develops from mesoderm. Sacrosome is a part of myofibril between two adjacent Z lines. Red muscle, more myoglobin continue, more mitochondria, less sarcoplasmic reticulum. Not feature of red muscle. Produce energy very fast. Near called fast muscle. ये ऐसा नहीं है fast muscle में. Muscles of iris develops ectoderm. Muscles constitute abuse 40 to 50% of adult human body weight. Skeletal muscles are voluntary state and immune to get fatigue. फिगर सार्कोलेमा का याद करना है पूरा. Muscle bundle, fascicles, skeletal muscle held together, collagenous connective tissue fascia. H zone, centriole of A. I, actin filament. A bend carries both actin and myosin filament overlapping manner. Arthritis, inflammation in joints. Proteins, thick filament, myosin. Thin filament, actin. Central part of thick filament not overlapped by thin H zone. Calcium binding site. Calcium plus troponin leads to myosin on actin filament. Motor neuron, all muscle fibers that innervates. Neurotransmitter involved in counting of skeletal muscle in acetylcholine. Red muscle fiber, myosin count increases, more mitochondria, slow muscles, aerobic muscles. False ribs, 8, 9, 10th parts of ribs. Acetabulum, pelvic girdle. One hind limb, 30. Thoracic cap, ribs cavity, ribs, sternum, thoracic vertebrae. Atlas and axis, no joints. Acromion, pectoral girdle. Unpaired bones in cromnion, 4. Largest size vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae. Floating ribs, 2 pairs. Shoulders and hips, ball and socket joints. Number of lumbar vertebrae, a human vertebrae column, 5. Axial skeleton, skull of sternum and ribs, vertebral column. Affectin, filamentous. Muscle cell, muscle fiber. Heart, involuntary state and multinucleated. Multinucleated, straight muscles. Adipose tissue, loose connective tissue. Lower jaw's bone, 1. Symphysis contains fibrous cartilage. Patella, cup shape. Pectoral and pelvic girdle, appendicular skeleton. Head of humerus into glenoid cavity, ball and socket. Gliding joints between zygophysae of successive vertebrae. Dark band, anisotropic or A band. Glenoid cavity, pectoral girdle. Macrophages and leukocytes, amoeboid movement. Sacromere, movable sternum unit within a myofibril bound by Z lines. Long bone, support and produce RBC and WBC. Vertebrae are fused sacral. Hyoid bone, floor and of buccal cavity, U shape. Human skeleton fibrous joint, parietal and temporal skull. 2 line point at center of light band. Shoulder joints, glenoid cavity of pectoral girdle and head of humerus. Coccygeal occurs vertebral column. Cranium, 8 bones of which 2 are paired. axial 80, appendicular 126. Pseudopodial movement, WBC of and macrophages. Tendons contains muscle to bone. Sarcomere 1A band and 2 half I band. HMM head plus short arm. Tarsal 7, phalanges 14, metatarsal 5, ferrum 1, ferron 1. Pubic symphysis non-cartilaginous connective tissue. Chemical energy into mechanical energy. Mechanical. Muscles energy. Chemical energy into muscle energy is mechanical energy. Straight muscles contracts, sliding of actin filament on myosin filament. All locomotions are movement. All movements are not locomotions. Amoeboid filaments, microfilaments. Pseudopodia, streaming of protoplasm. Macrophages and leukocyte, amoeboid movements. Muscles, mesodermal. Amoeboid movement, amoeba, neutrophils. Flagella movement, euglenoids, spermatozoa. Muscular movement, euglenoids, tongue. Ciliary movement, paramecium and trachea.